Look up Devin Madgy. He's I had to say something. He's doing a lot of videos. The word etymology, everything's a metaphor. This situation right here, a tree growing out the ground, is a metaphor. A person that walks and talks and has eyes, two eyes, biopic, half-brained, bipolar. It's all metaphors. It's all metaphors. Everything is. And so he's breaking a lot of stuff down. It's really interesting. I don't agree with everything. I also don't know where exactly he got things from, but I have seen him before. I'll just say that. And it's gonna open people's minds. The doorway's in there. You just need the key and the motivation to go.
It's funny though, because like I walk around and like when Hermes was visiting, we were walking around and people literally looked like The Walking Dead, like pallor, like they were just, there was no like a gray skin color, and you could see like genetic deformities in people. And I know that's mean, but it's like you're in a land of zombies, and people just acting weird with their children, and people acting weird with their dogs.
Did you guys talk to anybody?
Yeah, we talked to a lot of people.
Yeah.
He got approached a couple times, people recognizing him.
Really?
Yeah.
Hermes is that famous?
I guess.
That's funny. I mean,
about the North Pole stuff.
Did anybody talk to him in terms of non-NPC talk, or was it all like, I guess if they knew him, then they should.
Well, they want to know about, because he originally had the expedition to the North Pole, like physically going.
Did he actually do that?
No, he went to Wales, and with a bunch of people, and then like it fell through, and they weren't able to get it to go together. And he actually had another. He had like a divine communication with Sophia, and basically saying that it's all a journey inwards, like journey to the center of the heart.
Like you're not actually physically moving somewhere.
Right, there's not physically a holy hole in the North Pole. Yeah, it's like a toroidal field, but you don't have to jump in this holy hole. The Earth is a macrocosm of the heart, and our own toroidal field, and the journey is to go inward.
Right.
Yeah.
So. It's interesting to try to do anything going outside of yourself, because you're not ever going outside of yourself anyway, because like yourself is always the center. And I know people think, oh, you're being an egomaniac and you think you're God or something and whatever, all this other thing, and it's like, no, that's the lived experience. This is how I feel. This is what it is.
Right. The
world doesn't move like it moves in relation to my movements, and my movements move in relation to its movements.
Yeah.
And there's not like a motion. There's not like a. It's absolutely still. Like as far as the flat Earth stuff that say it's, aside from all the stuff that goes along with that, I feel zero motion whatsoever. Aside from like my body motions and the stuff I see moving, there is absolutely no like shaking, moving stuff going on besides that.
Right.
Absolute stillness.
Yeah. People don't want to hear to go inward, and it's either an NPC, like it's like a tell, either an NPC or I guess a living soul that's stuck in programming or whatever. That once you start talking about going inward, you can see people's brains turn off, like they don't want to listen to it. Like they're like, nah.
Yeah.
I'm not that new age.
Right.
Stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, if there are beings that don't have an inward to go into, so to speak, then that, of course they're going to say that, because maybe their whole lives are comprised of only the projection system of thinking about future. Yeah, maybe that's what it is, and maybe you actually are offending them by trying to act like they can go within when they really can't.
Well, I think that all these NPCs and stuff, they're shadow projections of ourselves. They're mirrors, so that we see ourselves in these reflections, and that's why we need to laugh at it.
Yeah, it provides contrast as well, I suppose.
They're mimics. They're copies of copies.
Yeah.
And the copies keep getting crappier. of our energy into, like, say, like, it's an NPC and I'm trying to convince them to go inward and they want to talk about, you know, well, what about going to the North Pole? Like, I thought you said go. I'm like, well, no, actually, it's a metaphor. And if I don't notice that they're just, you know, shut off, and I keep on trying to feed and convince this person, that's like me trying to go outward, you know, and not kind of just recognize that, oh, this is just a mirror image of someone, you know, wanting to be stuck in the matrix, and that's cool. Like, they can be okay like that, and I'm okay like that.
Yeah.
But right now, especially, there's a lot of temptations for us, for our energy to be sucked out, like just like you and that guy. I'm sure it started to become a parasitic. Like, he felt that light in you, and you were being generous with your energy, and he started to want to take from you.
How was Hermes overall? Did you enjoy him?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. He said many times that I was like healing energy for him. I don't. I think it's pretty unusual, I think, to be around somebody like me who doesn't have a schedule. Like, I'm not like waking up and saying, okay, we're going to go to the store today, we're going to go to Balboa Park, and then we're going to make this for dinner.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, most people have, you know, things that they need to do or a schedule to keep, and I'm just kind of like, what do you want to do today? Like, hang out, or which is a luxury. But it was good because he could really, like, relax. But I think he hadn't been exposed to a lot of what other people are saying, like, at the event, and talking with him, it did open a lot of memories in my head and started me down the road of thinking that I'm part of the programs. Because he felt like he knew me and that he recognizes me, and I guess Og has told him that he's seen Hermes in the underground bases or something. But I don't know if that's something you want to talk about.
There's not a whole lot to talk about from my conscious memory. All I can say is that I actually saw Og. I first heard of him through Devin, right? Back when he was Devin. And I was just like sleeping in the car basically, and I fell asleep listening to something. I don't even know what it was, but at some point it turned over into the Devin / Og interview, and I woke up listening to that, and I was like, and Og just sounded really familiar. I was like, oh yeah, I know that guy, you know?
Really?
Yeah. And then, you know, there's just something about him that's sort of endearing, and he feels real. So,
yeah.
But then he's also, at the same time, he's admittedly, like, being controlled or being fed stuff, or he has a certain timeline that he's allowed to sort of release information and everything, and that's not me, you know. I simply do what I do, and there's not a guy watching over my back saying do this or do that. So yeah. So there's like, wait, sorry, what'd you say?
As far as you know.
Oh yeah, right. I can't see the strings, you know, like they're there. We're all little puppets, right?
Yeah. Well, he's apparently been activated, right? And if we have not been activated yet. Maybe I've been activated.
I don't know. All I know is that I generally rebel against everything, so if there is some sort of programming on me, then they know not to ever show their faces ever, because I will say, like, fuck you, I'm out, completely out, bye-bye. You know, I don't know. I see the whole thing as the realm is trying to be interesting, and I enjoy that it's trying to be interesting. I don't see it so much as like, okay, now we have all arrived and we're hammering out the real details that are going on here, and we're making the plan, of moving on into the future. I don't see it like that. It is a change in consciousness. It's a shift in your energetic movement within this, whatever this is.
Do you have a feeling though, like of redundancy? Like, I have this feeling that I've done this all before. Like, this is like broken record. It's like, come on.
Yeah.
So over it.
Yeah. There is definitely that.
Not a normal, like, I've lived this life once feeling.
Well, I think meditation has gotten rid of a lot of the redundancy feelings for me, because the redundancy feelings, when you think about it, they come from attaching yourself to your memory, right? Otherwise, how would you know that it was happening again? And
right.
Attaching it to memory is going back into past, whether it's like your conscious present past or it's some deep subconscious thing. And it's essentially helping that memory construct to still impinge on your present moment, which your present moment is perfectly pure and free, like it's absolute freedom, right? And so meditating or practicing presence is a better word for it, but doing that, it removes the sort of horror show that can happen when we entrain ourselves with our past memories in such a way that we start feeling like we're redundant, or that we're doing this over, or we have deja vu, or feelings like that. It's if you just think, okay, say this is happening over and over and over and over, what does that actually mean for you? Like, what does that mean for me if I am reliving the same lifetime over and over and over? What does it mean? And is it going to go on forever? Is there something I need to like do to get out of it?
Hermes and I actually had this similar conversation, and we struggled with it about how memory serves us living in the now, and how we can utilize memory in a way to still live in the now. Because you're right, if you are in the now, you can't be thinking about the past. But
it's not. You disappeared for a second. It's not that you can't be thinking about the past. It's that I used to say before, like, we came in and we were taught to live upside down. So we were taught to live only in projections, in thinking about the future, which is a rehashing of the past. Okay, like, we didn't create new things in our future. We were told blah blah blah, and then we did blah blah blah, and then we thought about blah blah blah, and that's all we did. And we weren't even aware of the present moment. We didn't. It's the weirdest thing. But then you become aware of the present, and then you kind of see future and past are just a memory / projection complex within my mind. It's not any sort of a reality whatsoever at all. Then you start realizing that if I keep my energy here always, because this is the only reality that exists, then I'm not giving my energy away. That's probably part of loosh farming, is simply thinking about the future and the past, because you're creating all this stuff as well just by thinking about it, and what you allow into your mind per whatever media that you're watching, whether it's YouTube or a TV or simply listening to your friend talk about some dumb shit. You're still creating in that moment by allowing it. And like you were saying, having head-sized holes in your sort of energy, right? And you have to put some barriers there, so literally every single impression that hits you is not multiplying on top of itself by virtue of hitting you.
Yeah. I think memories are really important, though, and I have a perfect memory. I want to say.
Yeah. Like total recall. Like you can remember everything.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard because I have to have a stimulus to access, right? I have to have like an input, a command, right, to go into
Yeah.
the file cabinet. But most of my memories are alphabetically organized, so I'll usually remember like the first letters of things. And then I'll be like, it starts with the D, and then it's like the little elf is going through the D files,
Uh-huh.
it'll pop in my head. But I like teach a lot through memory, right? By telling my story, right? So by telling a story to you, it might be a metaphor for a concept that you were maybe struggling with, that my story kind of clicked in your head. And that's a past serving the now by translating information and concepts.
Yeah, I do not think that the past, the memory system is a bad thing, because it does inform the present moment. Otherwise, you wouldn't even know that you existed. You wouldn't know that you are in this body. You wouldn't know. I wouldn't know I was in a car. I would be like, just banging around, or else nothing would be happening. Like, the past does inform the present as far as form, but it doesn't need to impinge. It doesn't need to negatively affect the present.
Have you had family members or friends, like, I used to think that it was like deliberate denial, and then they like believe their own denial lies, but it's like they remember a totally different situation than what happened.
That does certainly happen. Yeah.
And in a way, it kind of it makes them live in a totally separate reality, because their past is for them different than what happened, at least from your own experience.
Right.
I do feel like I do feel fractalized, and when I learned about the newborn screening program, especially in California, it started in 1983, the year I was born, that they started storing them indefinitely, the heal core samples.
They're storing what again?
When you're born, so my mom always had this story, and that she told me, even before I had this awakening or whatever, and she'd be like, you're born and you're, this beautiful, starry-eyed little baby, and then this Nazi, she was a fucking Nazi. She came in the door, and she had this huge needle, and she took your heel and she stabbed it in there, and she was like, my mom would be like, and you looked at me with those big eyes, and you looked at me like, what the but so that was the year they started. They stick a really big, basically biopsy needle in an infant's heel. Mm-hmm. I think it's the left heel, and it's a tissue core sample, and they keep it on file in a database indefinitely. And they can, in California and Illinois, and there's a bunch of other states, they can sell it to private corporations without your consent.
Why?
Huh?
Why?
Why? So they can make clone armies of us.
No, why can they do it? It's all manufactured consent. You just have to remember that we did on some level agree to do this, whatever this is. And we don't have like all information privy to us, but
right.
It comes, and however it comes.
Well, that's why I did blood over intent, so that I could regain my power over my DNA. And I'm thinking about all of these clones of me, or you think about the movie like Alien Resurrection or whatever, where they have like all of the half Sigourney Weaver clones, and they're like half alien, half human, and they're all kind of in these vats of formaldehyde. I'm picturing all of the my half whatever experiments, and I want to reclaim ownership ship over my DNA and say, you know, I do not consent over this. And I think there's power in that, in declaring, you know, reclamation of power over your DNA, and that you do not consent to use of your DNA outside of whatever you want to use it for.
Yeah. How did you feel any energetic changes after doing this, or was it not noticeable?
It's not like I, like, you know, felt like these chains release and, you know, or anything. I do feel like it increased my psychic abilities, and also I do feel it, like, it dissolved a shell of control. Like, I do feel more sovereign, and I don't feel I feel a lot more separated from the Matrix. But, like, the fact that we're clones, I mean, even around Hermes, I get all the time from strangers that people recognize me, or that I look like a celebrity or whatever. Like, constantly people say that I look like somebody, or that they think they know me.
Yeah.
And I've always gotten that. And there's something to that.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
The genetics. So,
I don't know.
What does Ox say about the whole clone thing?
Basically that clones have been around, and they comprise a decent percentage of the population. As far as who and what, as far as the who's, he's very hesitant to sort of get in there with who's, you know. That's why he doesn't talk about names and events very much. Like, he's very ambiguous in his style of speech, because I think he's trying more to present things that will shake up your processing and have you just look at something in a different manner than you normally would.
Yeah.
And, you know, he has his own sort of way of delivery, and he has like a scheduling. It may only be internal scheduling, like, oh, now I feel like making a video, so I'm going to make a video, but it's I would say if there wasn't a conscious intent, it would be to not make any grand picture very evident. Like, you have to kind of, like, ingest the information and let it percolate and let it sit, and then kind of you get like a feeling essence from it, rather than like, oh, this and this is happening, and now I need to do A, B, and C, and everything will be fixed. Like, it's not like that at all. It's abstract thought, and it hits you, and then you do your own abstract thinking about it, and whatever happens. It's different with every individual.
Yeah, I think by connecting, like, it opens up doors in our brains.
Yeah.
Like closet doors that maybe were closed.
Yeah. That's what happens with every single individual that you connect with. Even NPCs are, if anything, they're giving you a reflection of basically your dislike of the fact that they're not like you. You know, they're giving you a contemplation point, if nothing else. But every single aspect that we have here, when you actually take the time and give it enough respect to really explore into it, it's going to show you something. And if you don't have these preconceived notions that our train track brains like to shoot out, like you said when you saw the homeless guy, you know, your Kimberly brain says, no, don't talk to him. Automatically, like, you had nothing to do with that. That thought pop in, and you had to stop and, like, pull yourself back from that.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of automatic programming that goes on that you have, like, to break out of, or at least become aware of, like, oh, wait a minute, that's not my thought, or that's not what I really want to do. Yeah.
It's a deep, like the subconscious or whatever makes up the part of us that isn't the tip of the iceberg, which is like this, right? That thing is very deep, and if you haven't ever looked into that or explored it, then at some point the buoyancy of the water is going to change, and then the iceberg is going to go, and it's going to come up out of the water, and you're going to have to face it. Like, it's going to... That's why I always say, like, you got to look into yourself. You got to look into your actual situation. If you don't do that, it's going to come look into you at some point. And it won't be necessarily on the sort of terms that you would have liked if you had, of your own volition, said, okay, I'm going to look within and I'm going to find out what's going on inside of me.
Right.
I'm into it. You can actually tailor it. I don't think that Facebook is just... See, we got these ideas from, like, 1984 and other sort of... We have the idea that on the end of every other camera like this is some guy, you know, like sitting there taking notes, and I really don't think it's like that. I think the whole thing is like an AI automaticity or something that reflects our own sort of fears back at us, or it reflects our own confidences back at us if we're not having this fear thing, you know.
Well, I don't think there's a whole lot of living souls out there, and so they don't. I do know when I was heavily dating. I mean, right after I decided the marriage was over, and in California, it takes a long time between you decide that you're getting divorced and the actual, like, legal divorce goes through, right? Like, minimum 6 months.
Yeah.
But I hit the dating scene, like, hit the ground running, and I, like, dated, online dating. I was, like, going to the city, going to work in the city, and, like, had a whole change of clothes for my date, like, later to meet for drinks, and I had, like, a date, like, every day, and so that means I had to, like, have conversations, via text or online for, like, the next week's dates, right?
Yeah.
So it was a lot of work, and I know for a fact that I was targeted. Like, looking back now as an aware person about the type of people I was dating then, the people that I ended up kind of, going on multiple dates with, or, seeing it for boyfriend, girlfriend material. NSA, neuro-linguistic programming graduate student, Apple CEO, like Apple executive, Google executive, like weird stuff.
Were they all sort of NPC stuff, or were there any aware ones that you looked at, or?
Well, I wasn't aware really at the time.
So you don't know.
I was, watching CNN at the time on a daily basis, so, and I was, like, anti-Trump, So,
yeah, you got all the bumper stickers and everything?
No, I've never been that, I've never cared that much, but, like, I just thought they were, distant, or, like, I kind of saw it as me, being too intimidating, or maybe just being a deeper person than other. But yeah, but now I think that I was targeted because, like, there was people that they would be really invested in me, and then like want me to send them pictures of my work outfits, like, every single day, and then they just ghosted me. Like, and then I thought they, like, died, or I thought they got arrested, or... So... Now looking back, it's like, why did they want me to send them daily pictures? It's like they were building, like, this data on me.
Huh. But, I mean, When I say there's not a person at the other side of the camera looking through, I mean there's not an aware person on the other side of the camera looking through. And if the NPCs are looking through, then it doesn't matter because they don't do anything. They do their own little thing. Even if, I don't know, our ability to deal with sort of like annoyances. If somebody is following a script, or if somebody has a set of rules and appropriate responses to appropriate cues, we have a billion infinite amount of possible responses, so we just go right outside of their 3 that they have written down, and then they don't know what to do anymore. And so long as we're not hurting somebody, then that's total escape, and that's just all there is to it, and it's over in 3 seconds.
Yeah, but I think there are attempts to tempt us away from kind of the Christ consciousness path.
Oh, for
and
sure,
to
for sure.
Get us to like reinvest into this parasitic, energy matrix.
Yeah, there are always efforts.
Yeah, because I think there was some heavy magical direction, programming, whatever you want to say, between me and my ex-husband, and there was like a deliberate like pairing, whether you want to say it was eugenics or and then I cut that off.
Was it all bad for you, or did you enjoy him at all?
Oh no, it was I was a different person back then.
Yeah.
I think it was also when my brother was still alive. I think I was looking for a lot of stability with a man. I had been dating up to him very toxic, emotionally toxic men, because I grew up and my parents are divorced and they hate each other. So I wasn't really given good tools about how a man and a woman should interact with each other on a loving type basis.
Yeah.
So before I met my ex-husband, like I had done a lot of soul searching, and I actually had seen my counselor at grad school and had a kind of a 180 with my approach to dating and the type of men I was choosing. And he came along, and he wasn't witty, really. He wasn't thought-provoking, but he was a sure bet. He was stable. He treated me well. And I knew I didn't have to. He wasn't going to play games with me. He wasn't playing mental games. I didn't have to wonder if, he had some ulterior motive. It was very he was very on the surface, blue collar, which I don't know if you watched my stuff with Hermes, but I identify with Aphrodite, with the goddess Aphrodite.
Yeah, I watched a little bit of the live broadcast.
Yeah, so I actually married Hephaestus.
What's his name?
And
What?
So Aphrodite marries Hephaestus, which is the blacksmith god, who she hates, and she thinks it's stupid and ugly, and she basically has affairs. She was forced into this marriage with Hephaestus.
Hephaestus?
So, it's the blacksmith god. Like, who wants to be Hephaestus? But that's who I married in real life, so that is kind of just more proof to me that I am Aphrodite. But I didn't find him ugly or anything, but he did come home covered in soot every day. Like,
was he a chimney sweep?
reals. Huh?
Was he a chimney sweep?
No, he works in refineries and stuff, though.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that's actually kind of a cool job. Like, climbing down chimneys. No, not maybe the refinery too, but
Hermes and I just watched Mary Poppins together. That's weird that you brought that up.
That's also like the Santa Claus myth as well.
Right? Yeah.
Climbing down chimneys.
climbing down chimneys into a fire.
Into a fire and then scaring children and giving them material things.
But okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
You need an iPhone stand.
I don't need anything. I need more gadgets.
Unless you're trying to do a hand workout.
I have I'm bracing it a little bit. Is that there's a company called Skynet.
There is?
Yeah. And it's a satellite. It's like the company from Terminator 2. It's like Skynet.
That would be hilarious if just all the movie stuff just actually populated and manifested here in the realm, like all at once. Wouldn't that be a crazy scenario?
Yeah. Well, yeah, my second boyfriend is like a head up in Cisco Systems and now runs some satellite company. And I was thinking about that the other day, because when I was in grad school, I wasn't obviously dating him anymore, but we were still friends. And he'd post all these things about this new satellite company that he was part of, and he was running these satellites over the globe, and he was posting pictures in Antarctica and stuff. But this was back in 2008. So I'm thinking about this now, and I'm like, oh my God, like, he knows it's a flat Earth. He's taking all these, like, it's probably not even a satellite company. It's some weird company I don't know about. I don't know.
Shell company.
Yeah, some shell company. Yeah.
Yep. It's interesting. I don't know how you would do that.
It's like playing with your vision, and it's weird, and I never really understood it because, you know, I went to medical school, right? And even before medical school, you learn about vision and physics and stuff, and how you see a mirror image upside down, and then it gets flipped, and then like flipped again before it goes to your brain, or it's like flipped in your brain.
Well, we're supposed to flip it once, so like the world is actually upside down apparently,
right.
and then we reinterpret it to be right side up.
Yeah, and it's like, so if I'm moving my arm up, am I really moving it up, or am I just moving it down? And I think I'm moving it up.
Right.
Like, it's weird.
Yeah, then the sky would be the ground, and the roof would be like the sky, or the ground would be the sky.
Well, and it just shows you how much of, you know, our senses censor our reality to be able to perceive.
Sensor, yeah, it's built in, right?
Yeah.
The sense sensor.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really does. 5 senses, like, we're given the most watered down possible. I feel like we came here to see what limitation feels like. Like, we came here to see what's it like to be trapped and truly not be able to get out, or maybe not be able to get out for a really long time, or not have any clue what the fuck is going on, or all these various things. You know, how would a infinite being experience that? Well, like this. You know, who knows exactly how it's happening, but there is a sense of correctness that you feel internally, and you do relate to the environment in a certain way that does feel correct. And you don't have to do the shitty stuff. You have the option to do the shitty stuff. You don't have to do it. Like, nobody's sitting there, like, shackling you up and saying, like, eat this GMO food. You know, they're not forcing you to do that.
Yeah, even though it feels like it sometimes.
There are lots of programs. There's lots of subconscious stuff. There's the languages, spellcasting. There's all the religious stuff. There's all the NPCs trying to make us be like them. And then there's our own internal sort of deciphering process that tries to help us figure out, like, you should be doing this or you shouldn't be doing that. And it's just like a big, it's just a lot going on, you know? It's not a super simple thing.
Yeah.
And it changes moment to moment, and your feelings as well change moment to moment. You don't necessarily have any direct control over, do I feel happy or do I feel sad? Or anywhere in between.
Right, yeah, and I don't know, I guess these are the things that occupy my time, like, going back to your question. But I think it's fun to think about these things. And I do get lost in thought a lot. Like, I I've always time traveled, and in different ways. Most of the time it's through thought, but a solid way that I've learned is through the mirror that I've always done, time traveling.
Mirror meditation. Like,
I guess.
how do you, like, are you looking into your own eyes, or what are you doing exactly? Yeah?
Yeah, and I did it ever since I was a little kid. Like, when I was upset, I would go and lock myself in the, like 4 years old. Like, I would lock myself in the bathroom, or I would just close the door. I'd go in the bathroom, and I would be crying, and, you know, like, when you're a kid, your spit gets all thick, and I would, like, blow bubbles. And I would just look at myself in the mirror, and I'd stare, like, into my pupils, and just stare, like, be really close to the mirror, and I'd lose time. And I've always done that, and most of the time when I was a child doing it, it was around trauma that was happening, and I would look in the mirror into my pupils, and I would, like, almost from above my head, like, third person perspective, say, like, this is going to be such a growing experience for you, Kimberly. As an adult, you're going to look back about how you learned independence, and you learned how to be a self-starter, and you had learned how to comfort yourself. You're going to learn how dysfunctional these people are around you, and you're so separate from them, and don't let it affect you. Like, this was what I was telling myself, like, in the mirror as a 4-year-old. Like,
really?
Like adult concepts.
Yeah.
But, like, I've always mirror gazed, I guess not really even knowing what I'm doing up until now. But now when I look in the mirror and I'm staring at myself, it's like I know I'm telling that child.
So you're just on the flip side of it.
Yeah. And that's like time travel.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh my gosh, because I caught myself thinking about myself as a child. And I'm like, I'm actually telling my childhood self through the mirror, it's okay, you know, reassuring. But I have that memory as a child, having that information come into my head.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Time travel is interesting. But time travel is like, I don't know, we are fed the stories of what it is, and in actuality, time travel is just perception of your thought structures, and you're creating correlations between things that make sense. Like you said, you know, you just made a correlation between the child looking and being reassured versus being the one doing the reassuring, and it is a way of time travel in that sense, because the present moments are directly connected in that fashion. The old self is directly connected with the young self, and it's not just a past memory.
Right. And it's like, as a child, how can those thoughts originate? Because I remember, like I can't. That wasn't a 4-year-old thought, you know.
Yeah.
But doesn't Og talk about, like, waking up on tables and having lived, like, a whole life, like, into his, like, being 100-year-old man, and then, like living whole lives and then waking up?
He talked about putting the Montauk thing on the helmet. He described it in technological terms, where he said they put him on the table and put the chair on, put the helmet on, and he'd first live till he was 15, and then he'd get run over by a bus, and then he'd come back to the table, have that memory, and then they'd send him right back to another one. Then he'd live till he was 25, and then get shot or something, and that kept going on until he lived the whole thing till he was 80. But in every single case, he was getting, like, murdered or brutally tortured or something at the end of it, or else the whole life didn't make a lot of sense. But I don't know if that's so much a kind of like a movie type of, or like a Rick and Morty type thing, where you put on the thing and then have what feels like a life, but then you pop out and remember that all took 2 seconds in this current time, and it wasn't real, so to speak, as relates to this particular reality. I don't know if it was that, or if it was like I am a continuity of lives and I have remembering of my past lives, sort of thing.
Right. Like in each life, he had this sensation of going to bed every night and brushing his teeth, and like doing the dishes and all the mundane. Like, he had all of that experience wrapped up in the story as well. Or
he didn't act like that. He didn't go super in depth. It felt like he was trying to convey that the chair or the helmet was sort of able to be used nefariously, or able to be used as a torture device. But
I feel that, like, without the memory of a helmet for her, like, that's what I was saying. Like, I think that there's been access to us via consented procedures through our parents growing up, mostly like dental, and then a lot of stuff in our late teens and early 20s when we purposely inebriate ourselves and put ourselves in weird predicaments.
Yeah. I turned myself into an alcoholic for sure.
Yeah, like, I've had lots of blackouts where, I've lost time, where somebody could have intercepted in my realm and I wouldn't have known it.
Right.
But I have had, like, those dreams and the sensations of living full lives, and then waking up.
Yeah, that... It could... I mean, you could very well have been in there with the helmet at some point yourself. And another thing to remember is that I guess the wholeness aspect of existence itself, like as a totality, I feel like in every cell is knowledge of everything that has ever happened and everything that ever will happen. Like, that's the fractal nature of it. So if you are having sort of these visions, then in that sense you were on the chair and you had the helmet on, and you probably were. We all did everything, basically. It's just that we're living out this particular iteration, or this particular time space specificity. I don't know for sure if that's a decent description of how it actually is, or if you can actually access memories of having been like every single living being that ever existed. I don't know if that's a real thing or not, but I feel like it's definitely a possibility.
Do you remember any past lives?
I don't. I turned all my memories off. I got sick of it, so.
You shut it down?
I shut it down.
What?
I mean, I turned it off to the extent that...
There's stuff there.
I know. There is... There's a method of evading or not getting pulled into fear stuff. And there's a methodology to that, and me dumping a lot of the memories was just a part of that process. And it's not that I dumped them, it's that I dumped the conscious self, like, I know, but I don't, like, know, you know what I'm saying? It's hard to describe. I haven't lost any of it, it's just I dumped the sort of accessible and manipulable part, that little nasty ones that want to come fuck with things. They can't do that as well.
Yeah.
Is all. But I don't. Aside from, I would say I get feelings, like very nuanced feelings, when I'm seeing a situation, or like when Og came in. I don't have any conscious memory of him, but he came in while I was sleeping, basically, so maybe that was a setup, who knows, like, you could do the whole thing, like, everybody set everything up, but I knew him immediately. Like I was like, yeah, that's this guy, and he was talking to Devin, but I wasn't even really interested in Devin. I was interested in Og, and then that's what. And that happened right. All this for me started happening when I got out of the relationship, because that relationship, if you want to talk about setups, that blocked me from being me in every possible aspect, and I shut down absolutely 100%, and I became an alcoholic, and I hated everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's gone. So.
Yeah. Well, I definitely, I don't know how I stumbled upon Og either. But for the longest time when I'd watch his videos, like I feel he has my eyes, like I recognize him.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of people that, like I see myself in celebrities, but mostly I see like mutants around me. Like I see like genetic malfunctions, and I see like NPCs. Like I can, it's rare that I see people that I like recognize, and I see it in you, and I see it in Og, and I see it in Hermes, and I see it in a few other YouTubers.
Mm-hmm.
But for the longest time, when I tried to really like, I'm looking at Og, like there's something there, and I really want to hear what he has to say. Like, let's get into it. And I'll put on the YouTube video, and I'd watch it, and he'd be going, and obviously I'm thinking, and I'm making connections, and I'd start thinking on a tangent, and like connecting it, and I would all of a sudden like wake up, and I wasn't asleep, and realize maybe like 15 minutes had passed, and he's still going on the video, and I haven't like separated my gaze from the phone, but I realized that I have no idea what he's talking about, and I've been watching it for like 15 minutes, and I have no memory of what he said, and I have to rewind it.
Mm-hmm.
And that has happened to me lots of times when watching him. I don't know, has that happened to you?
No.
No.
No. I don't know. Og to me is like it's like mind food or something, you know? Like it's I don't. It's almost the case of we've been suppressed for so long here that anybody that comes in that speaks our language, so to speak, it's just like it doesn't matter what they're saying or why or how or if they're talking about plans or not. It's you're getting like you are getting energy from that.
Totally. Yeah.
And that would explain why you're sort of zoning out, because you're basically just eating and you're like nom nom nom, and
Yeah.
who cares what their words are saying? Like it doesn't matter, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it does matter in a sense, but if you think about it, we're not going anywhere. Like you're stuck where you're at in your present moment, and it's just you in your present moment, and then your projections / memories plus whatever sort of things are being hidden or that we're blocked from. So that's why we go into meditation. That's why we go find other people on YouTube that have a similar wavelength, because through speaking with them, you're opening up areas or doors inside yourself that you didn't know existed before. And you're like, oh, like I feel a whole different way now today because I talked with this person, and so good. Now I'm exploring, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I see it as exploring. I know the alt media circuit wants to like spread agendas and things, but I just don't ever give a shit about any of them. I am literally here to like explore and play and meet like-minded people, and if we're gonna have an apocalypse or something, let's make it a good one, you know? Like let's
I want the apocalypse to happen. I'm like, let's bring it.
The grid going down across the board basically forever, so I don't know if that would possibly tie into what this event is. And then also there are biblical references of like however many days of darkness, and I think that would probably also reference the possibility of the technology just going down.
Mm-hmm.
Whether manufactured or accidental, I don't know if there's a difference.
Yeah. Well, definitely the veil is lifting, and I can feel it. I don't know if you can, but like it's getting glitchy, and like part of that's the Mandela effect. But I think we're all here because we put ourselves here, our higher selves. It's like we delve down into chaos to discover,
Let's go playing physicality for a while.
Yeah, to find a way back out. But right now we're at the tail end of it, and all of these things are just to wake us up, to keep us in awareness, so that we don't slip back down in kind of the amnesic blue pill state.
Yeah, right.
How all the NPCs are. Because it's getting like more and more frequent. I don't know if you are experiencing how much the contrast is getting so blatant.
Yeah, it's every single passenger except for 1 out of 100, like I've said before. And then it's just there's no tie-in to, I don't know, like if I were to compare this realm with there's nothing really to compare it to, but just having like a cohesive thing going on that everybody's involved in, rather than looking like a sort of automated thing that's just things are moving and people are walking, but there's not like relationships happening and there's not collaboration happening, aside from if you go into the money aspect, which brings people together under the commonality umbrella of money, because this job, and the job gives you that sort of it gives you that connection with other humans under a common reason. Because if you don't have a real reason for talking with somebody, you're not going to talk with them. That's why we don't need to talk to our neighbors necessarily, because like back in the day when there wasn't all this technology and things helping us, then you needed to know your neighbor, because they might need to help you, you might need to help them. Maybe you just like having friends, but it's not happening so much now.
Right. I don't know. Well, it's a tough concept to get around, that there really isn't that many living souls, that in some way that there's a handful of real souls and the rest is all just here for us. Like, it's a big show for us. So when this little customer service person at the bank, when I leave the bank and I stop thinking about that customer service person, they kind of disappear. They don't have a life. They don't have a family. They only have a story if I involve myself with them and they develop a story, or if I continue a thought about that person.
Uh-huh.
Like, it sounds very like, I don't know, egocentric or whatever, but it's kind of like the notion of, if a tree falls in the forest and there's nobody here to hear it or whatever.
Yeah, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. I mean, I was doing that in my early 20s. I was telling people like, oh, once you walk away from me, then you basically stop existing for me, and then the same thing for me to you, and nobody could understand what I was trying to say, but I, for some reason, got it. I don't know, like the construct doesn't, it seems blatantly fake to me, but I don't even know exactly what that means. It just seems like, as far as me existing within the construct, it only does something if I do something. It doesn't just go do things by itself.
Right. And it's getting more and more glitchy. Like, I remember when I would go to a restaurant and, like, you get service. Like, there would be an interaction, there would be a rapport with the server, waitress, or waiter, or whatever. And now it's like you go somewhere and you're lucky if they acknowledge you, if, it's like when somebody's, like, I walk up to a counter and they're like, hi, how are you today? I'm like, great, how are you? And it's like something like they switch on and they're like, oh, doing great, thanks. And it's like, you know, wow, it's like I turned that person on. They were like in automatic mode, and then they get a story, you know, just because I started like interplaying with them.
But it's not even a story. It's there's a capacity that goes so far beyond the canned formalities. It's like every moment in my life is a jumping off point if I want it to be. Every single moment. Like, if I want to go have an idea and go do this or go do that or go visit this person or go travel somewhere or go create something, every single moment is exactly the same. There's not, like, the calendar linearity of it doesn't even affect me except in where I kind of let it as far as money and things, because the money seems to be the most intelligent force here, even though it's not human, but it is keeping track of everyone, and it's making everyone use it in order to move about.
Yeah, I don't know. I think with so much power, like the money thing, it's interesting because it's like you'll always have what you need, but
not necessarily what you want.
Right, but then there's always that kind of fear factor involved with it, you know.
I remember when I was still with my wife, I used to ask her, I was like, why is our ability to do things and use things dictated by a computer sitting inside of a thing called a bank? Like, how does that have any relation to anything? I couldn't understand it, and I was asking her, I was like, please explain this to me, and she couldn't understand the question at all. So, like,
right.
It was my inability to understand how the computer is literally regulating the movement of the people on the face of the planet, or whatever it is. I couldn't understand it. I still don't really... I understand what it is on a basic level, but as far as how it actually has power, I don't really get it. I know there's sigils and there are symbology on it, and I know people get entrained, but I just always have a difficult time placing myself within the NPC world where yes, money, yes, this is great stuff and I need it and all that. And I'm like, no, I don't need it, but it is having me do these sort of patterns, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I've been able to get away from having to work for a while, at least. And I'm kind of just figuring it out when I need to.
Yeah.
But,
lose sight of the body, so to speak, or are you still aware?
I can lose sense of the body. Yeah. I have very lucid dreams, and I astrally travel in my dreams. Like I've always remembered all my dreams. Ever since I was a child, and had like epic long, like Lord of the Rings, where I was, you know, like generations. I used to, like, when I was going through puberty, I would wake up exhausted because I would like live a lifetime in my dream and become like a grandmother, and I was like this grandmother, like galactic princess, you know, and like a big black hat and all of it was like the sky, and it had like sparkles, which were the stars, but it was my hat. But so when I meditate, like I think I can easily dissociate, like but I can go back in my body and like I'll hear the waves, or I'll hear, like, I can tune in and out of people's conversations.
Yeah. You go places.
Yeah.
I don't have as elaborate or detailed of dreams. I do, well, I take that back. I do have elaborate, detailed dreams, but I don't always remember them.
I don't know. I can feel it all breaking down. Anyways.
How do you occupy yourself if you don't have a regular structure? I mean, that's a dumb question to ask somebody, but
it's weird because time is have the same relationship to time as I used to. Like, I used to get up at the crack of dawn, you know, get ready, like super nice dressed, did my hair, did my makeup, got in my car, drove to San Francisco from the East Bay, so that was in an hour, you know, like in hell traffic. Okay, I'm like, I gotta go to work.
Yeah.
And then like park, and then, you know, you see 20 patients, get back in the car, try to get through the city as fast as possible to get over the bridge to get back home, and then I relaxed by watching CNN until I fell asleep. That was my life. And for what? Like, I was making bank, right? But I was, you know, thinking about commuting and putting all of my energy into patients who really don't give much back to me. And
what was your job?
For what, you know?
What was your job?
So I'm a physician assistant. So
Okay.
a PA. So like I'm the same level as a nurse practitioner.
Ah.
So I can do everything a doctor can do. I just have to have a doctor as my boss.
Okay.
But,
okay.
Yeah.
So you just dumped that. You just said no.
Yeah, I was working at a pain management clinic, and I just called in one day and I'm like, I can't go back. It was all like workers' comp patients, and most people were like Spanish speaking, which was fine, which was cool, but I was expected to, you know, have a translator and see a patient, and I'm an empathetic person, so like I really care about why you're here and why you're having pain, and I want to figure out what's going on and make sure I'm giving you the right medicine.
Yeah.
And by the way, like they have like 15 medications that I have to write out on triplicate and translate, and this is all supposed to happen in 15 minutes. And it takes them 5 minutes to walk from the waiting room to the exam room. So, you know, and I'm getting told by management, like, you know, you're asking about their cancer, and they're just here for pain. So you just ask about their pain. You don't need to ask about their rash or their, you know, the flu. Just ask about the pain, because that's all they're here for. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to. That's like going to have my ethics compromised. And,
Yeah. They wanted you to be one-dimensional. Pain
right.
clinic. It's only about pain.
Yeah, it's just turning medicine into a commodity, and it's not.
Yeah.
The goal wasn't helping people. The goal was money, and
It's always
I can't
money.
have that weighing on my soul.
Yeah. So how long ago was that?
That was Memorial Day a year ago, so almost a year ago.
Okay. So it was pretty recent then.
Yeah, and that's kind of right when, I mean, I had my awakening process start mid 2016, but like the big shebang didn't happen until mid 2017.
So how did this awakening begin? Give me like a brief just synopsis of what happened.
Synchronicities. You know, seeing the same, looking at the clock and seeing the same time all the time. And then that coupled with the sky, looking at the sky and just knowing that you know, that just ain't right. You know,
Yeah.
that just ain't right. And then kind of getting into that in chemtrails, and then I stopped working, and I kind of went through a little bout of depression, and I literally had like a 60-inch big screen HD TV, and I would just sit in front of it all day in the dark watching CNN. Like,
Why CNN? You should watch movies or something.
Well, I watched movies too, but it was right when the hurricanes were coming straight up the middle of Florida and like Puerto Rico, and and they were like for weeks like the hurricanes are coming, and I was like stressed out.
You're stressing out for all those people.
Right. And then finally, I just decided I didn't want to pay for my cable anymore, so I stopped cable, and so that meant I had to entertain myself with YouTube.
Yeah.
And I started watching InfoWars.
Oh man.
And that's a gateway drug into the whole thing.
Yes. Alex Jones he's a good talker though. Like he's got a mouth, you know.
Totally. But you can only stomach him for like a good 2 months before. I couldn't. Stop screaming at me.
Yeah, I couldn't do Alex Jones.
You know, I was a Hillary supporter, anti-Trump. I had no idea about the whole Pizzagate stuff, and because I thought I knew the news. I was watching CNN like every day. You know, I thought I knew, but I didn't. So that was kind of like the floodgates, and then I liked Victor Otto for a long time.
Haven't heard of him.
Kind of he's an ascension, self-help kind of guy who does YouTube videos. And then the synchronicities started happening more and more, and I kind of started working through my own, you know, demons, and just, you know, processing my past, and I started having a lot of revelations and my psychic abilities. I've always had psychic abilities, and it's kind of just recognizing that there's something there, and then you look at your life, and my life is like super alchemical. I have millions of stories, and they're all super strange and symbolic.
You said your life was like a movie, right?
Totally. Yeah, and I think people are watching.
Huh?
Do you ever have your phone just like the battery gets sucked really fast?
Every day.
Yeah. Well, I don't know.
You think everyone's spying on you?
I think I'm an interesting person to some.
Yeah. You know, I think it's entirely plausible that an avatar could be used for group access, because actually in that last book, the three stigmata of Palmer Eldritch, Philip Dick book I just read.
Okay.
So there's Mars and there's Earth, and there are companies that build these little claymation setups that you arrange in a certain way, and then you take a drug called Candy, and you will go to Earth in that setup, but it's a very sort of it's canned, like the thing says. So you are the same person, guy or girl, but you can be there for 10 or 15 minutes and basically like escape the horrid Mars life for that much amount of time. But the people that would go, maybe 6 people would go, and there'd be 3 girls and 3 guys, and the 3 girls would go into the girl, and the 3 guys would go into the guy, but then their personalities would stay separate, and they'd be fighting with each other basically on do we want to go swimming, or do we want to kiss, or do we want to like drive down the beach, or what do we want to do? And if they can't agree on it, then but the idea that multiple, I think it's more plausible that multiple sort of separate witnesses could look through one body. I know you're talking about the technology, but it's really not. They're all sort of interchangeable, I think.
Yeah, well, I mean, you could see celebrities, you know, like possessed by different entities. You can see, like, I've even seen it live time with certain people. Like, a different entity enters them and they switch.
Mm-hmm.
Usually, like, in a fight or something.
Yeah.
But it's
Or
like a
alcohol.
totally different energy.
Yeah. Well, that's what schizophrenia is. It's fragmented personalities, and whether that's entities or whether it's different aspects of yourself. See, like, the language breaks down and it all becomes the same thing always. Like, it's just we are using words to try to overlay this sort of physical internal happening that we are experiencing. So we're trying to overlay it with words, but they always end up like coming full circle.
Yeah, words don't serve us really like they should. I've found that I've been more and more deliberate with my language, because we are casting spells with what we say, and like the comments that we put up on YouTube, they're all energy signatures, right? That we put out there, and they're spells. Even just like saying hello, like hello. You know, what kind of energy is that? Like, even just saying hello, it's kind of like you go down octave or whatever. Like, instead of hi or hey, like high up, and like hello. You know?
I was thinking the other day about how there's that similar sort of thing in our heroes. Like, we have superheroes and things we get involved with, and that's also saying he rose, so it's like subconsciously connecting you with the crucifixion at the same time.
Yeah.
There's it's all there, it's all blatant. Once your eyeballs get opened up, it's like, oh yeah, of course, obviously. But until you do, then you are hypnotized. You are the Walking Dead until that happens. You know, you're hypnotized. You're going along on the train track, and you're just being a robot, basically.
Yeah. I mean, that's why I think that we are really gods and goddesses, and we really have, like, superpowers. Like, no joke. I do really feel like I could fly if there wasn't, like, I feel like there are like a crust, like a shell on us, that dampens our powers, but the veil is lifting and things are breaking down, and that's why I think the manifesting is getting more instantaneous.
Right. It doesn't have to be a doomsday scenario. It doesn't have to be apocalypse now or whatever. It doesn't have to be.
I don't understand how people can still, like, have some kind of trust in the media whatsoever. You know, like, all of it's come out that, you know, Project Bluebeam with the CIA, and, you know, they can just lie to us, and it's now, you know, we fund it with our tax dollars, you know, against our will. We have to fund them to lie to us, which is now, you know, not against the law. It's legal for them to do that. And
how?
It's they passed some law like in the 90s, but then I think it was even legal before that under the CIA, like the Project Bluebeam, that they can lie, like, give propaganda to the masses for, you know, national security reasons.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, like, I don't know how anybody can have, like, oh, I believe the news on these things, and, you know, I believe the government's doing this, but they did lie about that. That's okay. You know?
It's because if the realm is composed primarily of NPCs or robotoids, then when you say something like, I don't see how people can not get this, people aren't not getting that. They are robots. So the ones that are not getting it, that are not so-called awakened yet, are just those that haven't opened their eyes yet.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like, do you feel like time's breaking down, like time's changing?
I don't feel that time exists in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
It only exists if you are mentally living on top of the calendar. Like, when I discovered that the present moment existed and that the future and past didn't, then I realized that there isn't any time whatsoever. It's only a measurement of like moving objects, or as a measurement of your proximity to a future event inside of your mind.
Yeah.
It has no other meaning outside of that.
Right, and it's like, what's precognition? Precognition is you just having a thought in a time frame that's shorter than people around you, right? Like, you're just, because their sense of time is possibly longer than your sense of time, therefore you might know something before they know it.
You definitely, like, I am definitely accessing different dimensions of thought than I was before. And I don't know how exactly, because we don't even know how we're made. We're here and we're here, you know. We do what we do. But as you kind of move out of the old way of thinking, it changes automatically. Your precognition is simply thoughts. It's not anything besides thoughts. Like, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do after we're off of this? Like, that's precognition. I have this fuzzy image of my cat. I'm gonna go pat my cat. Or I know that a refrigerator exists, so I might get hungry and I'm gonna go. Or there's an ocean out there. You know, that's precognition. And then what? How do you want to dress that up?
Right. Yeah. I don't know. I think time is what you put your energy into it. It's all about where I think we're like the power sources, and things are emanating out of us. And like, if you don't put any energy or thought into time or into money, then those things aren't important in your realm.
Should be.
Yeah, because I don't know, like, I feel like I'm getting younger. I feel like clocks break around me all the time. Like,
yeah.
Just yesterday, my oven decided to be 2-3 hours off all of a sudden. I don't know how that happened.
Nice.
But
I like it. I like it when those things happen. I think that the entrainment system is comprised of the clocks and the calendars and the schedules and all of the days. Like, I just saw a couple days ago, it was Earth Day, and I was like, these things are every single day. All of them are every single day. Like, why are you making a special thing out of it? And not only that, but it's a huge hypocrisy, because we're destroying the Earth while we're designating only one day as Earth Day when every single day is Earth Day. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
Yeah, and if you think in the construct of us and them, you know, they control the weather, they control the time.
Harp.
You know, if you think of, like, if you think there's a sun simulator, you know, they can make that sun simulator move across the sky a little bit faster today than they did yesterday, and, you know, then that means your time has increased or sped up.
I wonder if you would have to feel like, I'm moving around really fast because I see the sun's going, and like, would it feel like a fast forward of a movie, or would you even be able to tell the difference?
Well, it was like when I was working, there's just not enough time in the day. Like, there is not enough time to sit down and have a conversation with somebody and do all of this you want me to do in 15 minutes. You know, you just can't do it. And then that just adds to the feelings of anxiety and helplessness.
Yeah.
In this construct, you know, we're raised to always feel the grass is greener on the other side. You know, if you're working, you'd rather not be working. If you're not working, you'd rather be working. If you'd rather not be married. If you're not married, you'd rather be married.
Right.
You know, it's always, there's always something. You're always having. You're always wanting more. You're never satisfied.
Feelings of inadequacy, right?
Yeah.
And the massive inferiority complex that the religions try to give you at birth.
Right. So
Well,
always go outside of yourself and not inside.
Yeah. yeah, the whole thing is comical at some point. It's